Greetings and welcome to the Equity.Guru Investor Roundtable. What a distinguished bunch of gentlemen we have here today as we take a look at Valeo Pharma. That would be V as in Victor, VPH on the Canadian exchange. I'm Rob Simpson. Over yonder is Galen Engen. He's got some cool things to say. The master of the chart, Vishal Vatura, is up there in the far corner, living the large life in the penthouse section, along with TK Indicena, who's going to get us started this evening or today or this morning, depending on when you're watching this, with the Valeo Pharma. TK.
Awesome. So I'll kind of go through VPH's business objectives and the business model and some of the products that they've had preference over with their business model. So VPH's business objective is to become the anchor of the Canadian healthcare system. And they want to do this by commercializing innovative products that improve patients' lives and support the healthcare providers. They're doing this through a business model where they acquire exclusive Canadian rights to regulatory approved products or any late stage development products, either through acquisitions or long-term in-licensing and distribution agreements with pharmaceutical companies. This kind of takes away the risk and cost of doing the CapEx and research and development, and as well takes in sales quicker than some of the traditional ways of doing pharmaceuticals. But they have an added benefit where they've had preference for products that are already approved in other territories such as the US, Europe, or Asia. And also they focus on innovative products addressing major unmet medical needs. So for example, they have a neurological branch that focuses on Alzheimer's, etc., products that do that, which is some of the groundbreaking products that are coming out right now. And some of these products require only an upfront regulatory and commercial stage milestone payment. This is just the way the Canadian Health Canada has set up its ability to commercialize these products, because they also need to do their preliminary research before the product goes straight to market. So it just allows them to curtail that whole process. And that's kind of their business model. It's essentially a specialty pharma company that acquires assets and puts them straight to market through commercialization rights. And
fully integrated, I guess. That's what you would.
Yeah, everything's done. So in other words, and we could jump over to Galen, there is no laboratory. There's no men in white coats and hoods making secret potions.
There are people in suits with who know how to fill out forms.
Cash. They're buying stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good model, actually. As TK mentioned, it's a specialty pharma company, and that in and of itself gives them greater moating as far as IP is concerned. Also gives them a faster throughput in getting things approved by regulatory bodies for sale in the countries that they're in. And as TK also mentioned, they get ahead of that whole process by getting items that have already got regulatory approval in other regions that are close to ours. So transferring them back and forth isn't going to take a lot of time and money. Now, specialty pharma is a great thing, but as TK mentioned earlier, you're starting from preclinical trials all the way through to your phase 3, trying to get it through the FDA and whoever else Health Canada, whoever you want to get to approve. And that's a lot of money, and there's never any guarantee that it's going to get there. So a lot of these small biotechs or pharmaceuticals that are doing these processes are fairly speculative until they make their first hit. But Valeo's decided to sort of step in and get in mid-tier and grab stuff that's already ready to go and basically become the domestic distributor of said products. They have all the contacts as far as getting it out the door and getting it on shelves. They have all the contacts in the government. So basically they're really set up. Now, this company I like because it's actually got a real deep experience when you come to the management is concerned. Steve Saviak and the rest of his crew have all served within the pharmaceutical industries on many levels for 30 plus years each. And basically, I might be stretching it for a couple of them, but they've been in there for a long time. So they really know the lay of the land. They're not necessarily just a bunch of accountants trying to do a roll-up. This is people that have experience, have a vision, and have already executed on generating revenue, which is another key point in companies that are making drug candidates to go to market, is that they're actually bringing money in the door. Now, they've just celebrated a milestone recently, beginning of November. I think on November 3rd, they announced that they actually got their asthma medications to publicly list in Alberta and also get public reimbursement, which is really good because that means they get on the health plan. Somebody doesn't have to actually pay out of their own pocket to get their medication. It's something the doctor can prescribe, and they can get it through their pharmacare plan or whatever plan they may have, and it'll be listed there instead of them having to go pay the whole pop, because sometimes these medications are really expensive. So, being able to have that sort of subsidized or at least supported by a government body is a real coup. So they've managed to make inroads in Alberta in that respect, and I can only foresee them doing more.
Yeah, they actually, and speaking of the asthma medication, it's one of their four main categories. They do respiratory medicines, some specialty products, they do neurology, and then they do oncology as well.
Yep.
And Vishal will give us his thoughts and also his charts.
Yeah. We'll take a look at the charts. I think TK will probably be talking about this, but I don't want to get ahead of him. But the record revenues that Valeo did put out on September 22nd. Galen mentioned the Alberta deal, which is the latest press release. On to the charts here. Bit of a quick review here. We were looking at VPH when it looked like that. We talked in a previous show about the big support here at 56 cents. We even talked about this, what's sort of known as a cup and handle. Obviously, the body of the cup here is not as round as some people would like it to be, but here you go. If you're looking at a cup on a profile, you have the handle sticking out here. It's a structure that matters. Nothing's going to be textbook in trading, but we had that structure. And then if I remember correctly, when we were talking about VPH, we had this breakout here, which was above basically the 81 cents level. And we were talking about how, hey, it's technically a very important zone here. We tried to break it before. This is where, we found some resistance as well. We shot up and we hit about like 97 cents. In that show, we were talking about the $1 zone being a very pivotal key, price level for anything under $1, really, any stock under $1. And it's just a psychological important number. We didn't really get there. We were 3 cents away from there. And then the stock began to sell off here. And unfortunately, we did actually close back below the 81 cent zone. But don't worry, there's some positive here. When I draw a trend line here, I want to show you guys that. So the thing about the trend lines is, we're connecting these, what we call higher lows. So basically, you're seeing that the slope of the trend is up. When I get one touch or two touches, obviously, that doesn't really mean as much to me. But when you get 3 touches, that's when I'm like, okay, this is a trend line that not only I do, but I think the whole market will be paying attention to, because it solidifies, it's a level that the market is respecting. So let's look at this third touch here. It actually happened on the 9th of November, so just yesterday, really, and we got a pretty nice volume candle here. And if I go to their historical data here, we can actually see that on that day, on November 9th, we did have 173,000 shares traded. So quite a lot actually in the past few days here. On the 8th, we had over 100,000, as I mentioned on the 9th, and then today we had 159,000 shares traded. You don't really see that type of volume until October 20th, and then you don't get anything above that until the first week of October there, where we actually had. Take a look at those numbers. We had quite a lot of buyers here between October 1st to the 7th. So that was actually, believe it or not, right on the breakout there, right when we were breaking out with strong volume. So, the slope here.
By the way, that just happens to be our roundtable for Valeo is October 6th.
Well, there we go. I think, there we go. It was the 6th. So I remember we were looking at this. So, that was that volume. I guess people were paying attention because they were we had a lot of good stuff to say about them and still have a lot of good stuff to say about them today. I really like this trend line here. We know that there are buyers stepping in here, and I believe, this trend line is what we want to watch. What would make me even more happy is if we get a close back above this 81 cent level, which in the upcoming days, I think a lot of us technical guys will be watching.
All right, we're going to go around the horn. We'll get some final thoughts on earnings. If he has them or wants them, that would be TK. And then he's going to tell me how much of my $7,500 he might spend right now on VPH.
Awesome. This is actually one of those rare cases in where the market is completely dispassionate about what's going on in the actual business. So if you kind of look at some of the estimates that analysts have put out, they have a revenue target for 2021 of 17 million. For reference, in the last 9 months of 2021, they've done 9 million in sales. So that's an added bit of revenue they have there. The key thing here is in 2022, the estimates are put at 51 million.
Wow.
Which is almost a 94% growth rate from the 2016 sales figures. But the market has priced down the stock 34% down year to date. So they're completely discounting what's going on in the business. I think this is more due to people not understanding the business model behind what's going on. Anytime you see a pharma company, people see the risk of research and the expensive upkeep of corporate overhead. And that's what the analysts focus on a lot of the time. So they won't break even in any model because analysts probably use some base models for whatever they predict, and investors see that and kind of discount the stock as just another run-of-the-mill pharmaceutical company, which is not true. This is where I feel if you want more of an understanding, you should actually dig deep and kind of look at how the business model is driving the economics of this. They will always have an operational leverage. They won't need as much manpower to run the operation, which means sales can increase, allowing more profitability to kind of build up in their books. And if you look at their balance sheet, it's a pretty simple one where they have 8 million in cash or 8.9 million in cash. They've got $5 million in inventory, of which $4 million of that is finished goods. They've got $500,000 in property and equipment. So they've got $8 million in cash and $500,000 in actual property, plant, and equipment. This is a very asset-light business. So there are not many expenses coming through. The business just generates cash and uses that for new acquisitions or other option agreements and licensing agreements. It also has a large book, 6.7 million of intangible assets. This is mainly submission costs and licensing fees. Naturally, these would be expenses, but because the company expects future profits for them, they can capitalize these as an asset whilst they expect sales to go through. So if you're curious if their business model is working, if you see massive deductions from their intangible assets, something is going, the economic value is not as great for them. It's always a kind of a leading indicator that something is wrong, but they haven't taken any deductions from that. They're increasing it as they invest more. So it's a clean balance sheet, not that many liabilities, just stock of cash, good business model, great management. I think it's 50% of your pot is a buy.
50% of my pot.
Oh, yeah.
All right, $37.50. Galen, how much you spending?
Well, I like what TK is saying. It is a very interesting company. It is an unsexy stock. Pharmaceuticals in Canada are typically unsexy. Unless they're actually doing cutting edge kind of, research oriented drug development. And those are entirely speculative. So that's just off to the wayside. This is one of the ones that come in under the radar because they're not trying to make anything. All they're doing is trying to get it sold and out the door. And so this can be missed by many investors, and it looks like it has been time and again. I think this is something that will actually provide a long and sustainable future of profit generation. And it only has one way to go. Now, that said, looking at the trading patterns that Vishal showed in the last little segment there. I'm thinking, and here's me being kind of crazy wacky, I'm thinking there's probably another bump in the future, meaning another hill and another valley. And it may continue as such. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plop down 2,500 right now. And then basically what's going to happen is in the months or so time that it does its climbing the mountain, I'm going to sell that off, wait till it hits the bottom again, then I'll dump in your 75. Because I think at that point I'll feel that it's good enough to just keep riding. Right now I think it's going to vacillate just a little bit more, so I'm gonna step in and just get my toes wet.
Okay, I like the strategies. Thinking ahead, Vishal.
He is, man. Yeah. I think
It is a good strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, Galen, you can also siphon off profits from your Tesla trade, right?
Oh my God.
I know that Musk did.
I was just gonna say, I know, like Galen hit the nail there when he said it's like an unsexy stock, and I think that's what people are looking at, things like tech and crypto. You guys know I have a favoritism, I guess, with mining stocks, but these small pharma biotech stuff. I think, as Galen mentioned, and TK, just talking about the numbers, the business. These guys, man, like I think this is a long-term hold. Like what I'm seeing on the balance sheet there, and also the revenues and expected revenues there, and the market's not paying attention. So I'm doing something similar to Galen. I would be putting 2,500 in now, and depending on the breakout, sure, if it breaks down and we do head towards 55 cents, 56 cents, I think I'll assess there, see if there's some bids coming in, and see what the news is at the time, right? I mean, the stock, it would have to go down there for a reason. And I can look to add there, but alternatively, I would add 2,500 more to my position. So add on as this breaks out above that $1 zone, as I mentioned. Sure, you're missing out on some of this move, but once you have that momentum breakout, we know we're in an uptrend now, technically. So from there, I think you'd have good news and, the market pricing in future expectations. And that's how I would play. So 2,500 now, and then 2,500 after, depending on the break or the breakdown.
All right, very, very good. I think TK said it best when he referred to people should do a little deeper dig on their own and do some research. We suggest that for everybody on every stock anyway, because we can't guarantee what we tell you. We're just giving you some ideas here. Past performance does not guarantee future results, nor does what we say. That's However, there's a lot of education on this panel around the box here. So, go with it, see what happens. Steve Saviuk's the CEO, has Galen mentioned the background in the field, and also he has a strong financial accounting background as well. It is VPH, and it is Valeo Pharma. That is the focus and has been the focus. And we'll see you next time on the Equity Guru Investor Roundtable.